Good morning. Good morning. We are now live on YouTube and on Facebook. A very warm welcome. And thank you for joining us for another of Daily Inspiration. Under lockdown. We're currently still under lockdown. And it's another week in South Africa. Please God, everyone should keep warm and healthy and safe. That's the main thing. I see people are logging on both YouTube and Facebook, so keep it going. Thank you for joining us here this morning. If you're just logging on now, please maybe post something in the comments. Share with us your greetings. We'd love to welcome you personally. Okay. In just a moment, they're going to welcome you all here, but I see everyone logging on, which is beautiful. Thank you all for joining. Please God, both YouTube and Facebook will hold out this today. Okay, let me welcome you all here personally. For those who have greeted us on the chat. And Hack, good morning. Bernice Kraus, good morning. Mandy Bloch. Oh, thanks for the feedback on the WhatsApp. Appreciate that. Thank you. Sharon Diamond, Helen Feinstein, Norman Stain, Larry Cohen, thank you. Arlene Delovitz, Felicia Jenks, Tracy Mindel, Robert Levy, David Ginsburg, Arnold Orkin, Boker Tov, Ruth Kaplan, hello, good morning. That's on Facebook. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. On YouTube, we have Dennis Solomons, Moira Dworkin, Stan Braz, Gamer Lean, Shelley Smith, Ian Clemenson, Rodney Kotkis, and Eleanor. Good to see you both online. Avril Walpert and Stephen Herr. Yes, Stephen, we'll dedicate our learning today to your mother's neshama, Esther Bat Moshe. May you have a spiritual elevation. So thank you all for joining for another session. And once again, I ask those of you on Facebook just to like the video and share it so others can join along too. Hello, Marlene Schur. Good morning. I also want to dedicate the learning of today to two good friends who need a refuah shalema, or should I say three. Rafael Shmuel ben Itamira, Chaim Avram Yosef ben Sarah, and Liran ben Sarit. If anybody else is not well, we wish them all a refuah shalema. May they get well speedily and quickly. We are now over 40 viewers on Facebook and YouTube, so well done for logging on this morning. Should I say 35 to be more precise? Hi, David Seif. Thanks for joining. If you're just logging on now, let us know you're here. We'd love to interact. Hi, Dee Tanner. Last night, do you mean Saturday night? D, what you're referring to? Saturday night. Let us know. Manfred Kalmer, good morning. Great to see you all. Fantastic. Good to see you all. Good to have you all here. Good morning, Shalom Trigger. On Facebook, Shalom. Well done. You sorted out your Facebook troubles. Happy you made it online with us. Okay, so The topic of today was extremism in Judaism. What's Judaism's take on extremism? Do we subscribe? Do we not? And the reason I ask that question is because it features in this week's parasha. This week's parasha is known as Parashat Pinchas. And Pinchas is a continuation of Parashat Balak, last week's parasha. As we know that Bilam, the prophet of Midian, did not succeed on cursing the Jewish people. So although he tried, and Balak thought that maybe with words we can curse the Jewish people because they have the power of words, and maybe let's curse them with words. But Bilam was unsuccessful. Hi, Don Olovitz, good morning. Bilam was unsuccessful no matter what he wanted to do, no matter what he wanted to say, he ended up blessing the nation. But he came up with another trick, which led to devastation and tragedy in the Jewish camp, in the Jewish community. What happened? He decided to entice the men of the Jewish community using the Moabite women, the Midianite women, who were going to entice the Jewish community to sin, not just immorality, but also idol worship. And this one, the Jewish community wasn't prepared for. While Bilam wasn't able to curse them, he was able to lead them to sexual immorality and idol worship. And that's the end of Parashat Balak. It ends on quite a sad note because the entire parasha spoke about the blessings of Bilam. As I mentioned last week in our daily learning sessions, the words of Bilam are the most powerful blessings possible. The most powerful blessings come from last week's parasha, Parashat Balak. The blessings and the blessings or the intended curses of Bilam. This week's episode of the daily portion of the Torah portion of the week focuses on the response. What was the response to that tragedy? And that was a zealous act. The zealous act of Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen. What did Pinchas do? So we know that in the community, the downfall of immorality fell even to the greatest of leaders within the Jewish community. It was the Nasi, the prince, Zimri, who sinned with a Midianite girl called Cosbi, also from the Chosheva family of the Midianite nation. Zimri and Cosbi were involved in immorality in front of the community. Tragic how the greatest have fallen. Even a Nasi, even a leader of a tribe of Israel could fall to the temptation of immorality. Hi, Fega Sager on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. If anybody else is joining us, please let us know you're with us this morning. We'd love to engage with you and welcome you personally. Thank you for joining us once again. So we're involved in this sexual immoral mess taking place in the Jewish community. And along comes Pinchas. Where was Moshe? The sages tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu forgot the law. He forgot the law of what should be done at a time like this of immorality. And Pinchas comes along, and Pinchas says to Moshe Rabbeinu, didn't you tell us that for this sin, They deserve killing. They deserve to be killed. And Moshe Rabbeinu confirms that Pinchas is correct. So Pinchas takes a spear and he kills Zimri and Cosby in the moment of sin with his spear for the entire community to see. And as a result, everything stops. And Pinchas calms down the atmosphere at that time in the community. Was it not a major issue? It was absolutely a major issue, Stan. Absolutely. It was absolute devastation. And that's why Zimri and Cosby together deserved to be killed. Interesting that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do it himself. It was specifically Pinchas who took the first step. Pinchas was the extremist. Pinchas was the zealot. He didn't take actions into his own hands. Interestingly, he didn't decide things on his own. He went to Moshe, the teacher, and said to Moshe, didn't you tell us the halacha? You told us what needs to be done now. You told us that at a time like this of sexual immorality, they deserve the death penalty. And Moshe confirmed that Pinchas was right. And Pinchas acts as a result of the instruction that he was taught by Moshe. What is Pinchas's reward? Pinchas's reward, as we learn about in this week's parasha, is that Pinchas was blessed with kahuna, priesthood. He became a kohen. Now, remember I told you, Pinchas was ben Elazar, ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas was already from the family of Kohanim. He was a grandson of Aaron HaKohen. So I see comments coming through. Moshe's shock. Yeah, it's interesting why Moshe couldn't react. But it could be it was a moment that allowed for Pinchas to step up. And that was the intention. That Pinchas should step up. How do you enable Pinchas to step up? Moshe forgets. Ian writes, did Pinchas not take over the leadership for that brief moment? Well, he did. But he had to consult Moshe. You can't just do it on your own. Stephen Hurst says Eliyahu Hanavi is Pinchas. Exactly. It does say that. Pinchas Eliyahu, it says. Eliyahu Hanavi was a reincarnation of Pinchas. In fact, Eliyahu was a zealot, just like Pinchas was. I'll get onto that. Thank you for sharing, guys. Keep it coming. Your comments are great. So well done. So Pinchas is blessed with kahuna. Now, he already had kahuna. He belonged to Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. So he already had kahuna. He already had priesthood. So what was given to him now? The answer is that there wasn't always a situation where you had a tribe of Kohanim. Aaron and Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in the tribe of Levi. When God chose Kohanim to serve in the Mishkan, he split the tribe of Levi. So Levi now has Levi, and Levi has Kohanim. So Kohanim was not a tribe that existed forever. Kohanim were appointed as Kohanim. And what was the rule? The rule then was that Aaron and his sons became Kohanim, and any grandchildren that would be born from that time onwards would also be Kohanim. The problem is that Pinchas ben Elazar was already born. So the moment that kahuna, the priesthood, was given out, it was given to Aaron and his sons, but any grandsons that had already been born were not Kohanim. So Pinchas was not a Kohen. Pinchas was a Levi, just like his uncle Moshe. And now, as a result of this act, Pinchas is now appointed as a Kohen. As the verse says, this will be a brit, a covenant between me and him and his children, says God. This will be a covenant to show my gratitude, to show my acknowledgement of what he has done. I'll bless him to be a Kohen. Now, we know what the attribute of Kohanim is. The attribute of Kohanim is one of compassion, one of chesed. The Kohanim are known to be people of chesed. They have to be in order to be a Kohen. And yet, Pinchas did an act of extremism. He was a zealot, and he got rewarded to be a Kohen ish chesed. If you remember, we spoke about this a while ago, that when it came to leprosy, if you wanted to see whether your friend had a blemish, how do you know if something's a blemish or not? How do you know if someone's done wrong or not? The only way to tell if something was leprosy or not, you needed to call the Kohen in. And the Kohen would be the one to assess whether that blemish was actually tzarat or not. Why that? Why the Kohen specifically? So he said, because the Kohen is ish chesed. Before you look at a blemish on someone else, before you highlight the wrongdoing of someone else, you got to make sure you show them love. Show them chesed, show them kindness. Because it's specifically through that kindness that you're going to be able to point out the wrongdoing. In other words, try and point out the wrongdoing without the chesed, you're going to have a very difficult time. The way you're going to succeed in the rebuke, in the musar, in correcting the wrongdoing, is by first showing love. Chesed of a kohen. And here it's interesting, once again, we have the contrast. On the one hand, Pinchas does a zealous act. He takes a spear in public and kills a man and woman of community. Well, Zimri and Cosby. On the other hand, he gets given blessings of kahuna, a priesthood. Why? So perhaps the Torah is teaching us a lesson here. In order to be an extremist, in order to be a zealot in Judaism, you also have to have chesed, sensitivity, kindness inside of you. In other words, just to be a zealot for the sake of being a zealot, or just to be an extremist for the sake of being extremist, you're not going to get too far. You're not going to be successful. How do you make sure that you're successful? Is by being a kohen who's a zealot. What does a kohen who's a zealot mean? It means that generally chesed and kindness motivate me. Generally, I am motivated by sensitivity towards others, love towards others, like a kohen has towards others. Ish chesed, a man of kindness. And then at critical moments, when there are critical moments, then I have to act with extremism. But if I act with extremism all the time, then I'm not the ideal extremist. The ideal extremist is one who is based on chesed and kindness, and sometimes has to step out of his comfort zone to restore order. Pinchas also got blessings of peace from Hashem. It's true, brisi shalom. But that ties in, Ian, the two are the same. Because what was the attribute of Aaron HaKohen? Aaron HaKohen was oyev shalom v'rodev shalom. Aaron loved peace and he pursued peace. The bris, the covenant of peace that God made with Pinchas, was one related to kahuna, to priesthood, because priesthood is one of shalom, of peace. I'll just break here for a moment and pause and welcome you all here once again. If you're just logging on, or you've just logged on to Facebook or YouTube, make sure you like our video and share it with others. Put your comments in the chat box. Let us know your questions. We'd love to engage with you. We're focusing on the extremism of Pinchas. But Pinchas teaches us an important lesson also. On the one hand, we know he got blessed with peace. He got blessed with kohuna, which means you can't be an extremist without chesed and kindness. But together with that, there are many people that battle with the fact that they're always kind. They're always generous. They find it hard to be based on principle. They find it hard to put their foot down and stand by values. Why? Because it's not nice. Why? Because I don't feel comfortable. So I'd rather go with the pathway of chesed and kindness and not rebuke, or not point out wrongdoing, or not be the extremist that stands up to values. That also is not correct. So many of us may see things that are wrong. So many of us may notice wrongdoing. And what's our approach? Well, I know that there's two extremes. On the one hand, you got the rabble rousers, or you have the extremists, or you have the loud voices and the noisy ones who stand up and shout and scream. Try driving your car through Meir Sharim, you may come across some of these people. Scream and shout. That's one extreme. Another extreme is you have people who say, I don't feel comfortable. It's not me. I'm too close to them. I'm too related. I'm too sensitive and too kind. I can't point it out. Rather, let the rabbi go point it out. Or let someone else go point it out. I can't be the one to point it out because I'm a man of chesed, a man of kindness. I can't be the one to point it out. Well, both extremes are wrong. Because extremism, for the sake of extremism, no one's going to listen to you. Chesed and only chesed, because you're too scared to open your mouth and put someone in his place, also not ideal. So what is the ideal? The ideal is to come up with a balance. On the one hand, I'm a kohen. And a kohen means I'm an ish chesed, which means generally speaking, this is the path I take, one of kindness and chesed and sensitivity and calmness. But I know that when the red line is crossed, the red line is crossed. And when I have to open my mouth and say something, yes, I'll do it with respect. Yes, I'll do it with chesed and kindness. But when something is wrong, I've got to be that Pinchas to stand up and say it's wrong. Yes, with respect. No one needs to shout and no one needs to scream. Okay, in that particular case, he took a spear and he killed them both. But that's because the teaching was that. He was taught someone who's involved in sexual immorality in public deserves to be killed. So he killed him. But the point is that don't be the one to shy away from rebuking someone. It may be more uncomfortable than showing love and chesed, but it's okay. If not you, then who? If I'm not going to do it, says the Mishnah, who's going to do it? So if I'm there and then, I'm going to do it. The Baal HaTanya, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, gives a very, very interesting insight into this. And this can maybe help us. And that are those moments that we need to be extreme and we need to stand up to values and principle. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi gives an advice in the book of Tanya of how to do this exactly. And let me share that with you. He says that a person is built up with two souls. We have a godly soul and an animal soul. Some of you have been part of my Tanya Shir on Shabbos mornings for a while, so you would have learned this. Hi, Lionel Rubin, good morning. You would have learned this already. But we have a godly soul and an animal soul. And my godly soul pulls me towards holy activity. And my animal soul pulls me towards wrongdoing. Says the Baal HaTanya, listen to the tip of advice. When you rebuke the individual, when you point out wrongdoing, when you stand up for values, what part of the individual are you rebuking? What part of the individual are you being an extremist and highlighting as wrongdoing? You're pointing out the animal soul. The animal soul has done wrong. You're standing up for the value, for the principle. The principle is you've done wrong. But what about the individual themselves? The individual themselves is holy. The individual themselves has a neshama, has a soul, is part of God. The individual themselves we have to love. As it says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow like yourself. Even the gangster, even the robber, even the ganav of town. His neshama is part of God. So what do we rebuke? What do we stand up for? What do we put our foot down towards? It's towards his animal soul, towards his wrongdoing. And towards that, we need to be an extremist and clarify what is right and what is wrong. But when it comes to him as a person or her as a person, their neshama, their godly soul, here the Baal HaTanya says, nothing should stop you from loving the individual. You love him. You don't love his actions. And once again, here we see the balance that Pinchas had to deal with. On the one hand, chesed and kindness and love, represented by the family of Kahuna. On the other hand, extremism. He was a zealot who stood up for principle. And when Zimri and Cosby were stealing, he killed them both. So too for ourselves as well. When we look at a situation and we see a situation that requires me or you to stand up and say something, don't shy away from it. We've all got the responsibility. If I'm there at that particular time, it's hashgacha pratit, it's divine providence that I should say something. Because why else would God put me there? So I've got to say something. But before I say something, I must remind myself. I must remind myself that the fundamental principle is v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, loving a fellow like yourself. It's chesed, it's kindness. That's the fundamental principle. And now, let me go deal with the wrongdoing. I'm going to point out the wrongdoing. Today, education is teaching this as well. When we educate our children or educate our students, we can't say to them, you are bad, or you are wrong, or you are this, or you are that. It's not about them. It's their behavior. Their behavior is wrong. I love you. I care for you. But your behavior is wrong. And when your behavior is wrong, I have to say something. And I have to point it out. But because I love you, I'm going to assist you in the process. I'm going to daven for Shula Chana Bat Esther Bela, who needs a refuah shalema. Who's Kara just tested. Okay. We're daven for Shula Chana Bat Esther Bela. Thank you, Dee. So today's discussion was about extremism, about Pinchas who taught us what extremism looks like, by the Torah who teaches us that extremism cannot come on its own. Extremism has to come with an attribute of chesed, an attribute of kindness. It's got to come with being part of the family of Kohanim. And somehow we got to balance the two emotions. If a person is entirely an extremist, you can't do that. If a person is entirely kind, also not good. It's got to be a balance of both. Brian Olren writes, tough love, always a balance. Promote the growth of the individual. Exactly. The reason why I'm highlighting the wrongdoing is because I want to help you grow. Not so simple. Not so simple, because people of principle and people of extremism often don't think sensitively. People with extreme views often are radical. And that's the question. Does extremism have to be radicalism? If I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs has a book which he recently published on this topic of extremism and radicalism. But I thank you all for joining us this morning. Hopefully that's some insight and some lessons to learn. Not to hold back, but not to be too forthcoming. To try and find a balance as Judaism always is. Thank you all for being here this morning for our discussion of extremism in Judaism. We're going to be back here on the same platform, Facebook and YouTube, tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. I hope you'll join me here. In the meantime, I wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful week ahead, and may you and yours keep safe, keep sane, and keep spiritual. Have a wonderful day.